Happy opening day. How's it going? As always, Nate Mumford, Director of Sales Engineering here at RCS, hanging out with you talking about today. Let's see, Zetta and logs, not just the everyday drag and drop, easy to use Zetta logs, but the more advanced, kind of subtle, like, did you know you can do this? And well, more like a, do you know this was here in the logs module? So, of course, as always, want to get some housekeeping out of the way. And yes, I am a big Mets fan, as you can tell. I have my little Pete Alonso polar bear over here, and I'm excited, ready to go for today. For those not in the U.S., it's opening day baseball season here, which is very, very exciting. I love my Mets, sadly enough. And so let's get some housekeeping out of the way first. We have all of our events coming up. We had a great time at CRS. So much fun seeing everybody. And we're going to have NAB in just a couple weeks. It's crazy. It's almost already April. Can you believe that? I'm still like February 28th. That's where my brain is right now. But yes, we're prepping for NAB. I should be there in a week or 10 days, something like that. Looking forward to NAB. Love seeing you. I got questions. I know we have a full lineup ready to go there, but if you want to stop on by, check out the RCS booth. We'll hang out with you. We also have other great events, as you can see, as well, later in the month as well. So love to see us. Stop on by. The RCS Academy is on the road, answering your questions wherever they may be for any of our RCS products. As always, don't forget, we have our archive over at rcsworks.com/RCS-live. And don't forget to check out those backup paths, data exchanges, and we're always looking for beta testers as well for Zetta, G Selector, Acquire, and so much more. And speaking of beta users, we did just release the 522.1 officially. I believe it was last week. So in case you're wondering, those great features like the imaging fallback and a couple of the great ones as well. We have a full video on that too. Where could you find that video? I don't know, Nate. If only we had an archive full of videos. That's where you could find the 522.1 new features over there. And I do have my chat open as well. MJ, how's it going? How's everything? Hope you're good. See a song list on Zetta Library. Seeing a song list. We have all the songs here. Look, MJ. Look at all these beautiful songs, ranging from like Dua Lipa to from my stock library has in the weekend. So many songs over there. So listen, let's dive in today. I'm going to go ahead and close. I'll leave this open for right now. Let's expand a little bit here. And I want to talk about the library right here, right? Sorry, the logs module. MJ, you got it in my head. So today we're talking about essentially those kind of those basic building blocks in Zetta to make sure that you understand all of the subtle nuances that, hey, did you know you can do this? Because a lot of times in radio, and I found this with myself too, so it's not just you, we only know the things that people taught us. And so I'm purposely trying to use these RCS live sessions to fill in those cracks, so to speak. So obviously we have the enterprise solution in Zetta. We have the drop down the top right to see all of our stations. So we highly encourage you to go and have those, multiple log modules open with different stations. One of the things I encourage users that have, let's say, a big TV in the waiting room area or the last man or woman standing, and there's a couple stations in their cluster, why not include the log module across, the screen size? Now, I just blew up my screen a little bit here so you can see a little bit better. But obviously, I like a small resolution because you can squeeze more data in there. But yeah, you can have essentially 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, log modules open. And the beauty of the log modules, don't forget, we have this you can see the progress bar of the asset here. And what you can do is I changed my resolution. And it's going to bother me here when I just bring it in here. Come on. There we go. Like that. And so what we have for here essentially is a way for users who don't have administrative rights to access the on-air module can still view what's going on here in the log module as a display, right? I can't actually do any triggers per se in here if I wanted to. I can't play, pause, or stop, but I can still view what's going on. It's a great resource for you as well. I got a whole bunch. I see MJ. Let's hear. Boom. MJ, do you poke support? I see you on there. Why? So why is Zetta only auto live assist network manual? That could be. I think I know what that is, MJ. Shoot me an email at nmumford@rcsworks.com. It's my first name, last name, and nmumford@rcsworks.com. I'll answer that question for you. And so what you can do here inside the log module, right? So first off, date range, we can pick any day into the future as well. I always tell users in my past videos, feel free to go and schedule Christmas in November because you can schedule as far into the future as you want with Zetta. No restrictions there as well, right? And we know that. We know we can voice track any transition. We know that we have essentially, we can segue edit any transition as well, right? And I want to kind of do a little deeper dive into these icons here and tell about some just subtle nuances of the logs module. For example, do you know what this little icon is down here? What this represents? Do you know, MJ? So this right here is, if I hover over it, you'll see it's this segue has been manually adjusted. Yeah. So if I go and change this transition by hitting the segue editor, and again, I just reformatted my screen size. I apologize. You can see there, I fixed this here. Let's go ahead and do one of these. Oh, I'm on my side monitor. Too many monitors. Anyway, I'll close it there. You can see that, but that's essentially my segue editor. I made a change in the segue edit, and you can see that my segue editor has been adjusted. That's what that means right there. And so other little things too, like, for example, you can see I have this I cannot play sweeper. Remember, don't forget, every icon in Zetta you can hover over and it will tell you exactly what's going on there. And so, for example, now you can see that I have I cannot play sweeper, and it's there intentionally for just this purpose. That you can see I hover over and it says cannot play because it's in a restricted hour. Interesting. If I double click on that sweeper, you'll see that it cannot play 24/7 on my station. Thus, it has the red X on it. Or that spot block. What's going on there? At least one child event has an error. Let's see. That's a spot block. The child event is this one, and it has an error. Whoa. Right? These are small things you might think like, yeah, Nate, this makes sense. Or like, for example, all these icons, as you can see, they all have a purpose to them, but you'll notice a lot of them have this little white piece of paper on it. And that's because if I double click on it, it brings the notes preview because I can actually have notes on here as well. So you can see these are my notes that I have inside the system, right? That I just double click, I can read it. So if there's a live read in here with a note, I can just double click on that and boom, there's my notes preview. Nice, quick, and easy. You know, you can do that. What does that little underline mean as well? This 313 for Elton John. What does that mean, MJ? Well, if I scroll under it, you can see it means it's stretched and squeezed this hour by 2.04%. If I make an adjustment in that log, that will change on the fly as well. And also we have dynamic airtime. This is real airtime. If I change this by a couple seconds, the entire airtime to the next exact time marker will adjust accordingly as well. Some cool things like that. Of course, we have the hours of the day at the top. I can always hit like 11 o'clock and then use that home button here for the auto scroll. It's going to bring right to where I am in the log. But you'll notice, by the way, see how it's purple right now? And I click it again, it's not purple. What's going on there, right? And you'll see that essentially that's because there is an auto scroll. So there's also a setting, by the way. As you can see, I have a couple events in the past history. I believe it's over here, user preferences, logs, and I believe it's items to show in the past currently playing. So I have -4, which means that show me the 4 songs or 4 elements previously the one playing that I want to see in the log module, right? And so that's a really easy and efficient way to kind of go and do that. And so again, that's just under the preferences over here. Up, user preferences. There is an admin setting that either disables and hides this or enables it. So just be careful. If you don't see it from a drop down, it probably means that you don't have something there, right? So if I'm showing the past currently playing, I got -4 personally. I like it a little bit of space. I think -3 is by default. And then from there, and I do see NJ. And then let's see here. So that's the home icon, the auto scroll. So if I turn that off, this log module will stay exactly as is. So even though the log is going to be queued up in order as is, it's going to stay looking at this view. If I have auto scroll enabled, it's going to move with me as the things start playing, right? So typically most users, they like the auto scroll in there. Now let's just briefly for time go through here. And again, I have questions if you have any questions on the logs module. You have the refresh button here in case you need to refresh it. Typically, you won't have to do that, but just in case it's there. This gear is going to be all of your utilities. So you see there's a log utilities for a way to regenerate the log, delete the log, copy log. That's for your flat file assignment. Typically, you won't have to use that with gSelector integration because you have the gSelector integration piece here. And that also you don't need to use very often. It's more of a support troubleshooting tool just because it's a way to kind of keep the log in sync. It's especially helpful for brand new users when we get the Zetta system up and running or you have maintenance or whatever it is. That's all that is. But really, you're not going to use that too much. The resolve tags, rotations, and imaging, that you might use if you're in news talk or you utilize tags and rotations and imaging. Because what that does here is when I resolve all, it's going to take that position in the log itself and resolve it to find the correct corresponding piece of imaging inside of that, either rotator, tag, or imaging group, which, by the way, is streamlined a little bit now in the 522.1 version, which is pretty cool. So let's see here. Oh, we did the home button. Oh, yes. And just to print the log is there as well. Print the log, very useful tool because, again, you can print that as a PDF if you wanted to. That's very helpful. We have the audio, which is just the audition module. You have the, opening, hook, closing. Don't forget, you can right click and change this, by the way. If you prefer to have always the opening or the closing, you can always right click and that will show you exactly what's going on there. This little up down arrow is your flat file traffic reconciliation. If you have music logs in here, that's going to appear as well. But typically, this is for your traffic. And so you'll see here, this gives you an entire array of information. Now, don't forget, you don't have to always sync, the previous hours and whatever it is. So let's just say if you want to redo a 7 to midnight for whatever reason, I can just, uncheck all these and I can just go to 7 and then control click. Everybody, that was just a simple control left click, or I can do a click and drag if I wanted to, or I can do a click and control, is it control, shift control? That one? I'll just control click then here. You can see. And there's various hours. So you can really go kind of crazy if you wanted to. And so in this scenario, I would only overwrite the hours that have the purple highlight in here, right? You'd have your file path and all of this. Just a friendly reminder for the traffic integration workflow. Obviously, when you want to import traffic, we do it automatically once. After that, the second time is manual because we don't want your automation system to always overwrite. What if somebody accidentally sent a music log or made a change or a traffic log? We don't want to overwrite that all the time. So the first one is going to be automatic. And then from there, we're going to go and move them around accordingly, right? Or do it by a manual process. Now, you might see this little kind of little signal here, or you might see a little couple computers. That is going to be your Zcast or your site rep icons. That is your manual site rep or Zcast. That's what that means there. And again, we have our segue here. We got our voice tracker. We've talked that extensively in the past, so we'll kind of save that for later. I want to also showcase, though, this custom, which you might see as all event types, something like this. This is just your filter, right? So what you can do here, you can say, show me only songs, only links, only spots, or the custom, and we can edit this. So I have a lot of users that like to kind of say, hey, I'm just voice tracking my weekend shift. I'm going to power through it. I don't really care about all the elements. Just show me what I have coming up in my logs, right? So in that case, I can say maybe, okay, we'll get rid of everything. So boom, everything's blank. I don't see anything. Filter everything out. And then all I want to see is what? Songs. Great. Then I want to see voice tracks that are all recorded. Great. And then I want to see down here, empty voice track positions. Great. And also I want to see top of the hour so I know where I am in the hour as well, right? Stuff like that. And then you can go over here, and I know that for my 7 p.m., I should have more elements there. So boom. So now that I'm doing my weekend shift, you can see that now I can just click on the empty voice track, record it here, record it. Now in the 8 o'clock hour, record it. Great, great, great. Life is good. Then I go back here and say, show me back all event types. And I hit that home button once again. And look, everything's back to normal as well. So just be careful, though, because some users will go and put that custom in, right? And you can see there's a lot of elements they can exclude or include inside of this. Like exact time markers is a common one they want to take away from the log module. But just be aware of certain things that, you don't want to be too crafty here, because if you hide something here, let's say like a link or a piece of imaging, and it's part of the on-air module, right? It's going to appear here, but not in the log module. We don't want to confuse our talent. That's not the purpose of it. So from my perspective, I typically utilize the log module in regards to the filter. I like to use that for kind of specific non-everyday purposes and then bringing it back to the all asset types when I'm done. That's what I like to do. There's also a search tool. Let's do an example over here. So Dan, let's do this, right? So what we're going to do is do an example of, I need to find when Good For You is playing for whatever reason. So, oh, look, I already had a Good For You saved in there. So you just type in Good For You, and you'll notice Zetta will find the next Good For You. There's also up-down arrows as well. So I can see it's at 1:35. I can see it again. Now we're in the 4 o'clock hour. And I can see 404.58. Jump again. I can see 620, right? And then I can either click on the search icon to close it, or as a little X right here, I can close as well. And again, hitting my home button, bring it right back to where I was in the log. That's a really helpful tool. I don't think if people embrace that enough, because just think about it for a second. I could go to the library, search the asset, open it up and call it a day, look at the history. Or if I need to see, hey, when's a Nate's Burgers spot playing in the log today, right? I can just go to that search, type in Nate's Burgers, and boom, that will appear instantly. And if you notice too, by the way, you can start typing. So it is dynamic in the sense that if I just do good, right, it will find all the elements with good in there. I take a lot of pride in my Google searching. And so I find a lot of times that if it's, the classic example of Nate's Burgers, if there's an apostrophe there or not, you can, easily find it by typing in Nate, something on those lines, right? Let's see here. Quick chat. Boom. Yes, Henrique. Yes. I was saying we're doing NAB is just around the corner. We're doing some special Zetta Cloud news. I'll be there with Zetta Cloud. I got some unique stuff to show at NAB as well. So trust me, if you're gonna be in the area, definitely stop on by. Not just for you, Henrik, but for everybody. Stop on by. We'll have some cool stuff to show there as well. And yes, Sam, thank you. I love it, Sam. This is great. We live by the log search tool here. I love that. Perfect. You thank you so much. I really appreciate the feedback. Those are things that even myself, I don't typically, it's not my go-to mentally, right? And I forget that it's there. And it's a really cool tool when you need to find something quickly and make a change or whatever it is, right? And finally, we have over here the publish icon. That is now I have a publish feature. This is in addition. It's a paid add-on in Zetta. It's the publish feature for podcasting, automatic exports, all that good stuff. So what you can do here essentially is highlight this, do Control-Shift, click on my export podcast. You can see that pops up over here. There's even a multi-track view as well. And I can essentially adjust this, export it as a podcast with the export. This is the name I'm going to export it as. And it goes to my destination pre-configured, in this case, the publish type export podcast that has a location that's on my desktop right now. So that's a little extra feature. That's the publish there as well. Speaking about making changes to the logs, I always forget this too, Sam. Right-clicking. You think it's so simple, but we're always kind of in this world of left-clicking in here. Don't forget, you can right-click, and these are all things you can do. So we have an audition preview. We can replace the asset, juggle the asset, insert a new asset. That's song, links, all that good stuff, including control events. So you can see here, I have comments, empty voice track slots. This is just literally a left click and drag it over to the log just like that, right? Exact time markers, fill positions, macros, traffic load positions, unscheduled positions. Those are here as well. Really, really helpful tool. And by the way, if you click on something, you'll see there's two fields here, or windows, I should say. Insert control event, and then, of course, the properties here. So if I click on this exact time marker, you can always change the properties of something here, like an exact time marker, changing this to maybe a soft sync instead of a hard sync and saving that. Boom, soft, 6 o'clock. Or adding an ETM in here, saving it, making ETM hit at 20 after, doing again, ETM hit at 40 after. You can save that here too. Really, really helpful tool. And that's just a right click and insert. That's all I do there. And if you have G Selector integrated, this is even cooler. Now, I have a keyboard shortcut on my end with Control K. That's in your keyboard mappings and configuration system command mappings. I made it to a Control K, opens up my consideration window. And when you're integrated with G Selector, this is actually your G Selector, all of your metadata that's here. So you have your category group at the very top, right? And you can see, just like in G Selector, title, artist, duration, category group, score for lowest, overall score, the rank of the song. You can see when it spins. You can see the test bar, all the behaviors in here and failure details. It's really, really cool. And I can go over here and take this song over here and say, I'll play this one, double click, and boom, just like that, I replaced it. And of course, we have G Selector live integration. That change is also available over in G Selector as well, right? Boom. I can see this here. So Sam was asking, boom, can we execute commands in the log for master station control split stations as well? Maybe a macro for live metadata send for multiple stations. Absolutely. The only difference there, Sam, is just remember, I like to be in the world of, I don't really typically drag in the extra commands. I build macros and put those macros in. And typically, I'm a big kind of very, very detailed and very specific. So, like, for example, if there is a take this route or do this behavior, I like to also build the opposite, which is return from that behavior. So I'll have a couple macros in there to say, hey, go to, come back, stuff like that. So absolutely, you can do that. You have a lot of behaviors in there. The only difference, of course, is I wouldn't say the execute commands. I would say build macros based on those execute commands just because they behave a little, in my opinion, a little cleaner, right? That's just me. And of course, Sam is showing up. Thank you so much, Sam. F3 or Control F for the log search. I wonder if I have F Control F here on. I do. There. So Control F or F3. You can override that, Sam, just so you know. So in case you want to try that. But yes, Control F for the search. Thank you for the tip there, Sam. Look at this. Sam, kudos. We'll get the gold star today. I love it. Boom. Henry was saying it would be smart if you can see you create a file both in the log and the library. Are you referring to a defined file there? Because we have the reports. I'm not going to do it right now, but that's actually good for a different lesson. You can do reports and you can see exactly who inserted something into the log. You can see who made a change to the log. It's the user, it's the computer, it's the timestamp, it's the action. So we can do that unless there's a bigger file you're referring to. That might not be the same thing we're talking about. So if not, let me know. You can touch base. We'll elaborate on that too. So Sam, thank you for the Control F. User, how they made the file. How they made the file. Like the flat file? Sorry, I'm reading this too. He was saying how user how made the file. As in the flat file, maybe. Okay. We'll chat. We'll chat about that offline. I got you and MJ to talk about. Let's see here. So we're at time here, 23. Perfect. So let's look at the search. And if you want to get your questions here, clean up for the library. I see it. So yeah, let's get a last call for questions here before I forget, because you know me, I always kind of talk fast. So we talked about the Control K, right? Also the right click for inserting elements, that's in there as well. A couple of things here, you can see you can juggle elements. That's always important. So take this song, right click this song and hit juggle. I believe I also have a command mapping in here for Control J, just like in G selector. Those things you can kind of put into the Zetta environment to mimic some of those same behaviors. Like, for example, me personally, I do a lot of Adobe Audition keyboard shortcuts in my Zetta multi-track editor. That's what I like to do. Let's see. We have our missing audio report, a quick little section there for missing audio reports. Oh, I might have forgotten the spot blocks, expand or collapse. That's also a setting, by the way, in your preferences, if not mistaken. Back up here, use your preferences, logs. I believe there is is it in here? Is it somewhere else? Boom, general. I thought there was a expand spot blocks. I'm putting myself on the spot here, and I can't remember where it is. I'm reading fast. It definitely is in here somewhere. Take my word for it. But somewhere in there is a option for if you want to expand your spot blocks or keep your spot blocks collapsed. So you can see, like, for example, here, there's my spot block. I have it collapsed. I expand it. I collapse it. Expand it. There's a setting for that across the board if you wanted to. So you can right click on here, or if you just want to do it at one time, you can go and say spot blocks, expand all, contract all, shows, expand, contract, macros, expand, contract. Again, expanding it, shrinking it. Missing auto report. Sync to selection is something we typically don't want you to utilize. That is going to be when you're, let's say, breaking news and you're deviating from your format. Network stations are taking audio routes for a long period of time. You got to bring back the sequencer to the next event that you want to play. That's what you're doing there. Essentially, if I go right now and I click on stay and I right click and do sync to selection, it's going to jump to 6 p.m. tonight at 6:08:40. That's what it's going to do. So typically we don't recommend doing that. But if you're a news talk station with breaking news, it's a pretty common feature in there. Just be aware, we typically like to have the Zetta on-air sequencer stopped in manual mode. We sync it up and then we play it to re-cue it in there. Of course, we have our edit audio, the multi-track, single track, or any external third-party systems. You can see I have Audition here on myself. We got the show hide all windows. That's going to be for your, as I had the control events on the right-hand side. The view, test bar failure details history, again, for the G selector picking. And there's also the properties here as well. So just right click in here. I always do insert. That's just my kind of, because there's that command properties there. So you can see some of the stuff like there. But there's empty voice track properties, there's spot block properties, stuff like that. And by the way, Sam, there's your split behavior stuff there too. You have some split behaviors. You can do overrides on these specific elements as well. So let's see here. Last call for questions. We're talking about back to basics in the log module, understanding the smaller nuances of the logs module, making sure that you understand kind of the big picture of all the things you can do inside of Zetta's log module. We talked about here, let's see, the enterprise, having multiple log modules open at a time. Date ranges, you have no restrictions on date ranges. Went through all the icons, how to re-ingest traffic here as well. The home scroll button, the hours of the day that were there. We talked about the transition markers, little things in here, hovering over to see what's going on. If you have notes in here, you can double click to preview the notes icon. Right clicking on things, seeing all those great behaviors. Doing some keyboard mappings or command mappings, keyboard shortcuts. Control K to go and pick a song from G Selector automatically in Zetta. That's such a cool tool there. We talked about right click, all the stretch and squeeze. Of course, don't forget to customize. I totally forgot. Don't forget to customize your log module. Right click and insert. Look at some of this information you can include on here. So for example, like off the bat, just very briefly for like 60 seconds, and we'll wrap up today's session. You have all these different ones, error codes, edit codes. Those are really for, there's some of your stuff, Henrik, is the error codes and edit codes if you want to make a change somewhere. Fun fact, don't forget that everything inside of Zetta has a GUID. That's a global unique identifier. The idea there is that it's essentially a super 26 character alphanumeric that you cannot change. It's in there. So that way, that's how we avoid the voice tracks being played back during, non-wanted hours, like the Christmas voice track playing in the summer, because it's a GUID. When we have a GUID, it's specific to that transition. So if I just add this in here too, you won't want to have this permanently in here. I just want to show you. You can see everything here is labeled. Everything here is labeled. And it's all unique, cannot be replicated across the board. So when I make a change to this into this, that has a GUID for just the log itself. It's a really, really powerful tool. That's the under the hood stuff. You can see here if things are fixed and cannot be moved. We have hour markers. We can insert split behavior commands, status codes, stretch if the particular line position can be stretched or squeezed or not. That's pretty cool. You see me do that before in the past. Again, if I want to do a stretch and squeeze, don't stretch this element. Go back in here, stretch that element. I love showing that for news talks. If they have, let's say, a 59:30 and their network end breaks and they have 30 seconds to go to the top of the hour, some stations have like a little music bed or whatever. I like to go and say, why not find an element that's roughly, 28 to 30 seconds, and then use the stretch and squeeze just for that. So you would have stretch and squeeze disabled for the entire log, except that one position would have a stretch option to it. So it can stretch or squeeze based on the timing. It's pretty cool. Over here, we also have from the assets, we have artists, titles, sponsors, external IDs, audio marks, the trim ins, trim outs, fade outs. Extra has all this great stuff like playback methods and album and opening and date created, last modified. Those are my two go-tos in the extra fields. These are your custom assets, your custom fields that we created. There's a past video on those that we did as well. Station specific categories, mood, energy, tempos, participants. That's for our classical stations, arrangers, composers, musicians. Advanced is going to give you a lot more. Again, some of the play rates, those are the GUIDs we talked about earlier. File path, in case you see what the file path is, the bit rate in there, some of the normalization settings. Again, you can see this is like really customizable. Most users don't need to get this far deep into the log module unless you do. And that's the purpose of this RCS Live. Hey, do you need to have this particular very specific piece of information in your logs? If you do, right, then put it in. Do it, right? That's the purpose of Zetta. This is a modern solution to radio automation. So the idea is that we should not be thinking that, oh, I guess I can't do X, I can't do Y, I can't do Z. No, you should be thinking like Sam, which is I want to put a master station control for split stations in my log module and have readily available. Can I do that? Yes, you totally can. And we can help you that too. So if you have any questions, of course, as always, RCS support, we are here to help. MJ, I see all of your questions there. And are you on YouTube? You are on YouTube. I'm going to try to check that out and see if I can't respond to some of those questions here. I'll do a last call for questions as I read this. Boom, 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 boom. I got you, MJ. I'll try to comment on you on there. All right. So anyway, yes. Let's see. What is it? I think we are going to be back next week on Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. My brain is preparing for NAB. And yes, Henrik, we'll have some really cool stuff to show over there for Zetta Cloud and much, much more. And I will see you next Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern for another RCS Live. And as always, let's go Mets. Bye.